Hi everyone, today is lesson 4. It's our last lesson and it's on perfect cubes, which you might not have heard of, but again, it's very similar to yesterday's lesson on perfect squares. So let's get started. Lesson 4 is the Thursday folder. It is our last lesson for the week. Tomorrow is your evidence of learning. Clicking on today's notes. Yesterday we worked with perfect squares. Today we are working with perfect cubes. So your learning target is I can list perfect cubes up to and including 125. So just like yesterday, perfect squares are those numbers that come from two equal factors. A perfect cube is a number that is the product of three equal factors. In simple terms, it is the product, which is the answer to a multiplication problem, that comes from multiplying three of the same number. So for example, 5 times 5 times 5. That's the same thing as 5 to the third power. It is not the same thing as 5 times 3, by the way. Okay, so 5 to the third power gives us 125. Therefore, 125 is a perfect cube because it is the product of three equal factors, three numbers that are the same. So if you take the cube root of 125 in your calculator, it will come out nice and pretty. For the second example, I have 8 times 8 times 8, which is 8 to the third power, which is equal to 512. Therefore, 512 is a perfect cube because it is the product of three equal factors. So again, if you ever have to test if something is a perfect cube, because again, there are an infinite number of perfect cubes out there, but we only have to memorize a certain number. But if you have to check any number to see if it's a perfect cube, you press second caret button and the number you're trying to figure out. So let's do that 512 right now. If I go to this calculator, I have to type in 512, press this button here, and then the 3 for the cube root, and then you press equals, and that gives us 8. A reminder for our graphing calculator folks, you go to the math button, scroll down to nut choice 4, or just press the number 4, and we're trying 512, and we get 8. If you get an irrational number, that means it is not a perfect cube. You can still take the cube root of other numbers, it just is not pretty. Okay, so just like we did square roots, the easiest way to write out perfect cubes is to start at 1 and keep going. Fill in the table below to find perfect cubes up to 125. You can see perfect cubes are not as common, so that means that we don't have to memorize as many, which is nice. So let's just do the first one together because I really believe you can do this on your own. So the first number we're going to start with is 1. So if I were to try to find the perfect cube that goes along with 1, I have to multiply 1 times itself 3 times. 1 times 1 times 1 is the same thing as 1 to the third power. And 1 to the third power, or 1 times 1 times 1, is 1. Pause the video and finish the table. Go ahead and check your work with my work. I bolded the numbers that need to be memorized. Again, you don't need to memorize the computations on how we got there. You just have to memorize the perfect cubes. Now again, the memorization really doesn't need to be there because if you have a calculator, you can always just calculate these by multiplying them by themselves 3 times. If you have questions, please let me know. If not, self-assess for today.